deciding play there in the final fight. It's a team game, guys. It's 5v5. You throw all the stats out the window. You can have a guy have a bad game, and great players come back.
Yeah, those are the plays you remember. You don't remember the general whiffs at the start, the questionable did you ride them, pickups or whatever. It all comes down there at the end. Obviously, we saw Vici Gamer Reborn at the end of that fight. They were pretty miffed about it. Obviously, they felt like they could have played it a bit different and been able to get the success. So I'm guessing that it's going to be a heated locker room, if you will, for VG Game Reborn, but what can you take away from that and hope to apply for game
There's a lot
two?
to still take away from that, even though that was a close series where you're like, oh, well, picks shouldn't matter, but the picks actually mattered a lot this game because the early game we could see Navi potentially just steamrolling them in 25, 30 minutes if they didn't go for that Roche too early. So they still need help in this early game. They need to find ways. I still think you have to ban out the Enchantress or the Chen for art style. You have to ban that and just play around Wisp. I would rather play around Wisp than or against Enchantress. Or you pick up, like I keep talking about, Enchantress for FY. You just can't give the junglers to art style.
I honestly, thinking about it right now, I'm still
what about
not sure.
Okay,
I think
so
if you offered VGR the chance to play that same 5v5 matchup again, they might take it. I mean, I still think they should have won that game. I really do. It took absolutely Herculean efforts by several different players on Navi just to keep them in that game at several points.
Well, Yang is like the only reason they were still in that game early on for me, at least. I mean, because his offlane was amazing. He went around getting solo kills all the time, got fast necro books. So, what about the Nature's Prophet? We saw how he did his performance on the hero. Might not have been the best in the early game, but the pressure it applied everywhere on the map, you could feel it at least.
I mean, at the same time, I'm kind of sitting here just gears turning in my head trying to puzzle that out because it certainly looked like VGR were ready for the Nature's Prophet pick out of DOTA. They had a plan to control the influence of that hero around the map. It's kind of like what we saw OG do against Alliance. They applied some resources to defending those Tier 1 towers. Some of that may be poor objective prioritization by Na'Vi at certain points, but I felt like that was not the pick that caught them off guard. If anything, it certainly was the Enchantress.
You saw earlier, just before the switch over, Nature's Prophet. We knew it had some mild success this tournament, especially anywhere outside that safe lane role, and it's of course only in the hands of Na'Vi where it's had 4 games and 100% win rate. Even here still, this was the first win for a Faceless Void. Actually, we only saw Faceless Void today, and it lost both matches earlier, of course, but Na'Vi finally get a win with it, so... Do you think it's something that they'll still bank on going for again? Is Faceless Void now just kind of a working factor?
I think it's a working factor a lot of times when we saw what it combos with, right? The DP, the art style Enchantress there. I think if Genoa hit a lot more of Chronospheres, the game would have been a little bit easier maybe to take some of the team fights. But, I mean,
easier
you can put him on any initiator, like hero, Batrider, Void, it won't matter. He's going to be a star player.
I think to me, a lot of the viability of the Void depends upon Navi having the roaming advantage there. I feel like Void's an offlaner that if the other team has the roaming advantage is susceptible to being highly punished in the early game, but because of the Enchantress being able to come from behind.
I mean, when you just get bashes at, first hit and just having your Enchantress there.
Exactly.
Who needs another hero?
So do Navi need to approach this? We already talked about how VG Gaming, and you felt confident that they would even consider maybe the same 5-man spread if they got the opportunity. But for Navi, would you say the same for them? Do you think that they had a good thing going and they could just kind of make that work, or is there anything they could take away from game number 1 to apply differently? Obviously, you probably look at that game and you're like, okay, we got to remember, don't get ahead of ourselves, especially when we have a 10-1 advantage at the lead-in. But anything else, maybe?
Would you rather see Ditya on like a Lycan or Sven or something along that lines to Nature's Prophet? And then maybe put General back on the Furion if they do pick it?
Yeah, more and more.
Maybe
we've
just
been
a
going
little.
on. Yeah, more and more as we've been going on. I mean, I almost feel like it's Navi that maybe want to make the adjustments off of this. I really, as wonderful, we could have sat here watching highlights from that match for 20 minutes, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I really do think that Navi were very fortunate to win this game. They made a lot of great plays, but at the same time, VG Gaming Reborn had full control of that match. They had the late game lineup. It took absolutely gigantic plays from that Navi squad to keep them in it and then bring it back.
I mean, they don't. From what I've looked like here, I mean, is it more that Navi just see the Nature's Prophet still out there and they figure we might have to just grab it for ourselves? I mean, that might not be the case this time. VG Gaming Reborn, I've yet to even play it at all. Don't think that Yang is much of a big Nature's Prophet player, So is it possible we just see him pass on it altogether?
Yeah, I would say Furion might. I don't know. It's really hard to say what they really want to do with the hero. Can't really pick it up for VGR.
It's hard, right? As analysts, we're supposed to try and dissect these things and point out these adjustments. But I thought
so close.
if you can criticize one thing, they almost got VG Gaming got sort of boxed into taking the Earthshaker at the very end. But that paid off for them so much. FY had just glorious initiations there. FY's Earthshaker initiations were part of the reason that the Nature's Prophet in that game by Dit Yara was just couldn't go anywhere by himself. You saw a couple different times Earthshaker initiated out of the fog, dunked on him.
So
you had Lion behind him.
I felt like that Fissure as well as the Earth Spirit. You're just like, Fissure, here's my stun. Earth Spirit, here's my stun, and they just did both the same thing, and it was just amazing watching both of those supports just playing at really high level Dota.
All right. Fair enough. So, gentlemen, what we'll do now is we'll cut to a very small break, and when we get back, we're going to continue the Hype Grand Final as we go into game number 2. We'll see you soon for game 2 action.